So, it seems I've ruffled a few feathers in the CrossFit industry recently because of a couple of things I posted on Instagram. So today I want to talk to you about what I said, what I think of different aspects of the sport, my experience of never identifying as a CrossFitter, but having been to 25 to 30 plus boxes in half a dozen countries, and what I think CrossFit could benefit from changing. Straight off the bat, I'm going to say this: you are going to be sorely disappointed if you think this is some general bodybuilding flipping absolute bitch of CrossFit. That is not the case. In the macro, on the whole, I love CrossFit, and I think if you put all of the different aspects into a melting pot, flip and stir it all up, does it come out for society, for the individuals, for the fitness industry as a whole? Does it come out net positive or net negative? On the whole, in my opinion, it comes out overwhelmingly net positive. It seems to have an amazingly positive culture. The community side of things is incredible. There's no gang warfare between boxers. They all seem generally excited and enthusiastic for their own performance and for everyone else's performance as well. One of the other things I think is really good actually is I do believe that CrossFit over the last few years has kind of led the way in celebrating the perception of women in fitness, grafting and putting in hard work. I think before CrossFit, the idea of a woman in lycra being covered in chalk and, you know, sweat all over and flipping hair stuck to her face, I think a lot of women would have felt significantly more insecure to put adequate effort into a workout that they look like that at the end. But CrossFit has created an environment where that is celebrated, and that is another thing that I think actually is fucking wicked. So, what did I say on Instagram to piss a couple of people off? I released 2 Instagram reels over the last couple of weeks. One of them was basically me stating that I don't particularly like the exercise prescription, so the specific exercise prescription from CrossFit when it comes to conditioning. I think some of the movements that they use are very high skill, therefore very high barrier to entry. I don't really personally like the use of Olympic lifting variations as a tool for cardio. I also definitely don't like high rep plyometrics as a tool for cardio, because the way that I program and the way that I train, everything that is done is reverse engineered from a specific objective. If my goal is to work on my metabolic conditioning, 150 box jumps for time, I believe, is comparative to other avenues, a grossly ineffective and inefficient way of getting fitter. That was the general message of one of the reels, and that is absolutely something I fucking stand by. The other reel was about the use of power training and the fact that maximal intent, true athleticism doesn't really seem to be a primal part. And the tongue-in-cheek example I've often used is, in a CrossFit gym, considering I spend most of my time as a functional athlete on my feet, I'm not sure spending more time teaching Joe Blogs from the bank or Fat Karen from Starbucks how to walk on their hands more so than how to move properly on their feet in the form of things like running mechanics. I'm not sure personally that is time well spent. So that's an overview of the 2 reels that I've released recently, and honestly, I absolutely stand by those messages. I am not screaming and shouting that CrossFit is objectively bad. I am, however, sharing my opinion, which is something that I believe I'm absolutely in a position to do. But here's something that might surprise you. The main problem that I see within the CrossFit community is ironically at the recreational level and not the elite level. And that problem being a resistance to feedback on absolutely anything to do with their sport. To be able to love something and be passionate about it, but at the same time accept that it could be better, is imperative if you want to maintain a mature attitude towards anything. But it's a sign of the times with modern social media, right? Like, I had a couple of people that I actually know quite well and consider friends basically tell me that I was wrong because I had an opinion about something that isn't their opinion. And to be honest, other than CrossFit, I just don't see many paradigms where people would operate that way. Somebody said that one of the posts was very clickbaity, and I will say this. My interpretation of clickbait is having, I don't know, a thumbnail or a title or a headline or something that is very catchy, very limbically hijacking and causes a bit of a threat response. And the content of the piece, the content of the message, so when people read further on from the headline or click on a video, blah, 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 it is inconsistent with the headline itself. However, the first sentence of the reel was, "I don't like CrossFit conditioning." The rest of the reel was incredibly consistent and congruent with that headline. So therefore, that level of consistency suggests to me that it's not clickbaity. It's also not something that I'm saying just to get attention. It is absolutely a viewpoint that I stand by. And for those of you that have been watching my YouTube content for a while, you can go back fucking 100 videos and you'll see me review the sport in a very consistent way. Now, I've had a lot of issues personally, this is very much a me issue, in the past with saying anything that may appear arrogant or create a perception of me as somebody who is arrogant. However, I'm going to say this. I spent 5 years as a Royal Marines Commando serving in both Iraq and Afghanistan, which is obviously a super endurance-based pursuit in the elite parts of the military. I also spent 2 years as a full-time international bobsleigh athlete, very much on the speed and power and explosivity end of the stimulus spectrum. Since then, I've run numerous fitness companies, trained international athletes in over half a dozen sports, and I've got 5 Guinness World Records of my own so far at the age of 35, and I don't imagine that'll stop anytime soon. I don't say this to brag, I say this because of this. Considering all of this has been my background and a list of my pursuits over the last 15 years, and I've vacillated in and out of CrossFit gyms in about 10 different countries over the last 15 years, I feel confident in saying when it comes to me just standing there, I'm not saying anything is objectively good or objectively bad, offering my subjective, phenomenological experience and observation of another sport, I think I've earned a fucking opinion. When I say that I think CrossFit is 95% good, that should be enough for most people. However, let's talk about the 5%. Power training and the lack of general athleticism work. Again, focusing on super high skill, super technical movements can be rewarding when you start to nail it. But considering they literally class themselves, I do think there's a narrative within CrossFit that they're like, we are the best all-round athletes. I've never been to a CrossFit box in my entire fucking life where they've spent more time, effort, and attention developing someone's running mechanics or change of direction more than handstand walks over power lap bars. Another one, which is kind of linked to this, is their general interpretation of the word power. I've been to a couple of functional fitness events that have had different workouts. They've had like a speed workout, strength workout, endurance, and power. The power workout was basically steady state for 9 minutes. And again, that is a shorter duration compared to the endurance event that might be steady state for 45. But the fact of the matter is, according to the interpretation of everybody that's ever worked in any other sport or strength and conditioning through the history of fucking time, 9 minutes is an aerobic time frame. It is not power. So the fact that this sport, I think, has just randomly started throwing words out there in ways that might not necessarily be accurate to anyone else might be a little bit concerning if they're trying to get everyone else on board. And the other main one, which I've already kind of alluded to, is the specific prescription that they usually have in workouts. Again, I don't really know how the elite guys do it, but I've been to a load of CrossFit boxes where, as a rookie, as the first time I've walked into that box, there have been 1,000,001 other people that are not elite athletes. They are very much recreational fitness enthusiasts that are doing, full range squat snatches for an incredible high number of reps, plyometrics like box jumps or box jump overs for an incredible number of reps, and high skill gymnastics like handstand walks or handstand push-ups or ring muscle ups for a high number of reps. It just feels to me as though if the objective is to get people fit, there are ways to do that with a significantly lower barrier to entry. This is one of the things I said in the reel, right? Regardless of whether or not you're consciously aware of it or not, if a particular movement is incredibly high skill or balance dependent, your application of effort is going to go down because you're going to be too fucking cerebral thinking about what you're doing. Holding a dumbbell in each hand or even like goblet squat position and lunging forward is very low skill. That's a great full body conditioning movement. I personally believe that everything anyone does in the paradigm of their physical training and their exercise should be reverse engineered from an objective. Is this going to help somebody move the needle in the direction they want, as opposed to this looks cool when I write it on the fucking whiteboard? And the main reason why I believe this has ruffled a few feathers, I've actually written something down and I'm going to hold my laptop up because I want to read it kind of verbatim as I wrote it earlier. If somebody or a group likes something but can't even entertain the possibility that something about it could be improved, as an example, if you love CrossFit so much that you blindly accept every single thing they do, say, and practice, believe it is amazing and perfect and therefore beyond the need for iteration in any way, purely because it comes from this source, you don't have a passion or a belief, you have a fucking ideology. So as an example, as a comparison, right, I love athletics, right? That is my background. I used to be a sprinter, dabbled in jumps a little bit, used to be a decathlete. I would still be open to assessing in isolation whether the IAAF could be improved in some way. The way the institution is run, the way some of the courses are run, making sure they're constantly looking at new research and data and iterating, refining and updating the way they do things at a top level and the way they feed that down so the grassroots coaches make sure they're training athletes as effectively and efficiently as possible. Another thing that I wrote down earlier that I wish to read verbatim, in the athletics world, there are truly elite coaches and athletes that have been practicing and refining their craft for far longer than CrossFit has even existed. These men and women are still, of course, open to learning new ways to get better, both from research and results within their sport, but also from other sports and pursuits as well. And again, elite CrossFitters, you're probably elite and the top of the pyramid because you're doing the same thing and looking at different ways that you could sharpen the axe and refine your ability to perform in that pursuit. Whereas recreational CrossFitters that and again, this is my experience, but I do fucking own this one, whereas CrossFit can be so unbelievably ideological that they refuse to recognize the value in looking at anything beyond Greg Glassman's original scripture. To think that this is just how we do things is the most dogmatic approach I've ever seen in sport, and kind of disappointing considering how many different performance metrics CrossFit needs, literally constantly varied, and how new it is. This is a sport that tests 1,000 different metrics that has existed for less than 20 years. And it is because of that that I do believe at a recreational level, and this is more than 10 CrossFit boxes I've been to in my life, in probably 5+ different countries, there is a level of absolute fucking arrogance for these coaches that have been involved in a sport that has existed for 5 minutes, thinking there's nothing they can learn from any other pursuit or sporting endeavour of guys that have had tens of thousands of coaches and researchers working on it for the last 80+ years. A refusal to iterate or refine, and a blanket refusal to even accept the mere possibility that you could potentially improve from looking beyond your current scripture. To me, that just feels like CrossFit's a religion. So if you are a CrossFitter watching this at any level, I genuinely encourage you to think about this. And again, this might not be you, but if this is you, this is interesting. This is the crux. Figure this bit out. If you experience a genuine negative emotional reaction to somebody, not a random fat Karen in Starbucks, but a fitness industry professional who's coached international athletes in half a dozen disciplines, again, it's true, I think that's fair, and who has competed on the world stage himself, saying that I am passionately, enthusiastically on board with 95% of your sport, but I just wish more coaches would be open to developing their sport and being more open-minded. If that upsets you, you are ideological. I truly have never experienced that level of closed-mindedness in any other sport, which is such a shame because overall I do believe that the sport is, again, 95% flipping amazing. And that is my 2 cents on that for the day. Please do comment down below your thoughts, feelings, and emotional reactions to this. That's possibly opening the flipping floodgate, but genuinely I am intrigued to see what you guys think. If you did enjoy this video, please do smash that like button. If you didn't enjoy this video, please smash any button you want. Please do subscribe and make sure you make time to watch some more of my content. And as always, guys, stay strong, stay healthy, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next video.